Welcome to episode 10 of the Monday Mourning podcast. This morning, we go completely off the rails with a PowerPoint about grief and depression, the difference between baseline depression and Mariana Trench depression, and how spirituality can be depressing. Well, welcome back. Thanks for having us. Welcome to episode.
It means so much.
This is the 10-year episode anniversary of the podcast starting 5 months ago. This is episode.
Yeah, beautiful decade.
Deca, double digits.
I'm so happy that we're a preteen now.
Yeah.
We're
we're
tweeny boppers.
Puberty looms. Yikes. Episodes are going to start getting real bitchy around 13.
All right. Well,
who are we? Who's speaking?
We're bitchy. I am. Let's see. Where should I go with this? I'm Harry Jensen. I'll start there. And
okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, nailed it, honestly. And my daddy, capital Daddy, died of, wait for it, concertos. Stage 4 megastasis concertos, cancer diagnosios.
Wow.
Expelliarm. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he was just.
Okay, it really took me a minute to figure out I was like, is this a dish? Like a food?
A concerto? Like concerto with Parmesan? Yeah. Yeah, it's a 4-piece concerto, 4 cheese, tortellini. Yeah, he had little pockets
Big
of tortellini.
Crescendo.
Ravioli, just breaking the door down, armed robbery.
Fettuccine.
That's my linguine. Too crazy. Okay. He was covered in oregano and he died of cancer January 5th, 2017. Even though it's the 10th anniversary of the podcast, he died 3 years ago, so it's complicated. But hi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As we said,
Harry.
grief isn't linear, right? Grief is not linear.
It's not linear. It's like that movie Interstellar. It's like Interstellar where like he opens the door at the end and then he sees like everything. My dad died while I was in the door.
Yeah.
In the infinity door mirror.
Oh my God.
So thank you.
So he's actually alive in another timeline, maybe?
He's Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, he's dead sexy.
Hey, Harry.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Yeah,
Hi.
hey, Harry.
I'm Gabby. Mommy died September 3rd, 2016. What a day. What a fun day. And
what a day.
what was she doing? She was, she was scaling Everest.
Mm-hmm.
She tried to make it to the summit and she didn't get there.
It was a summit plummet.
She plummeted down the avalanche of metastasized tumors, just
Mount Metast.
snowballing her down. Yeah, Mount Metast.
Ironically, even though she couldn't scale Mount Metast, she was scaly because of Mount Metast.
She had
Yes,
scales
she
of
had
her
scales.
own. Scales of her own.
Yep, she
Anamorph,
actually evolved to develop scales. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, hi, Gabby.
Well, thanks, Gabby. Thanks for sharing.
As always, such a pleasure hearing about how our mother died. My name's Madison Ann Bellato. Full name.
Whoa.
Full name.
Okay.
you
Why'd
say
you
and?
expose my last name too?
You just did that.
Everyone knows we're sisters.
We don't have
okay,
to
we
share
have different
the same
last
last name. Okay.
P.S.
Anyways. Yeah, my mother is
Doxed.
Gabby's mother. So September 3rd, 2016, the fateful fucking day. I don't know how she died. I wasn't there. So she could have been smothered with a pillow. I'm not sure. But they say it was cancer.
Yeah.
It could have been homicide. We
It could have
really
been
don't
homicide.
know.
I wasn't there. I don't know.
It could have been
Did they do an
momicide.
autopsy? I didn't hear. Momicide. Yeah.
Homicide.
No, it was metastasized cancer. That
No. No, I don't believe it.
I'm sorry. Like, we're so goofy. Sometimes we need to get a little bit more clinical. Okay. It was.
She had big cancer all over her little orgies.
Yep, and then the chemotherapy fucked her over. Yeah.
Boom.
Anyway, hey, Maddie.
Hey, Maddie.
Golly.
Maddie and
Hi.
Bellotto.
All right. I
Yeah.
think every time we do this intro, we just get a little more on the mark and we just hit a bullseye and everyone loves it. We don't lose listeners immediately. And it's great.
Yeah, I mean, any good TV show or book, it takes at least 8 minutes to know what's going on and who's in it. So we'll get to that 8-minute mark one day and wrap it up a little bit.
Yeah. Just like any good intro, you're more confused after.
Character development has yet to come.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, what are we talking about today, folks?
We're talking about
depression.
Depression.
Oh, sorry. What were you? Did you have a train of thought, Harry?
Oh, no. I was just sort of like sticking my thumb out, like hijacking your train with my bindle in the back.
No.
Just surfing the roads. Yeah, we're on the third prong of the third trident of Poseidon's heavy trident of harpoony mental health awareness month.
Mental
year.
health awareness
Mental
day.
health year. So we did big old anxiety, big old addiction, and now we're doing big old sadness, a sadness that creeps, creeps
Depression.
and crawls.
Yeah, it does creep and crawl.
It's a creepy crawl.
Yeah, depression. What do we think?
What do we think? We have a little depression
got it.
connoisseur to my left here. I don't know.
Everyone look on your left.
Well,
someone on your left has suffered from depression, and if not, you're alone, and then you're depressed.
Oh. Yeah,
So.
yeah, exactly.
One in every one person suffers from depression at some point.
Okay. Well, I like that stat.
You're 12,000.
I think that this is kind of what? Why are you training over my train?
There you go again with your fucking trident.
Yeah, no.
Stabbing our sentences.
All right, take your trident and throw it.
Anyway, I think that this topic is it's probably, I think it's similar to the anxiety episode in some ways because it is something that, I guess could be induced by grief, but also like you can just always deal with this and then grief happens and then it's just like a double whammy. So that's my experience. Disclaimer. Definitely dealt with the D. I don't know if I want to say that.
You're on record, baby.
Wow,
You're on record.
Big hard D. The big hard D. Was it small?
I've dealt with depression long before Mom died, and probably long after. I will forever. Yeah, so I don't think it's really like necessarily correlated to my grief, but again, just like anxiety, they can morph together.
I think Poseidon. The grief exacerbates any already present depression. The D, if you will.
The big D.
The big fucking D.
The big old D.
What do you think? Hair dog?
I think I got it in spades.
Dog.
That's what I think. I think I was playing Mental Health Texas Hold'em, and God dealt me 6 aces, and then he killed my dad.
Royal flush, yeah.
So that's like maybe 3 more aces, like a bunch of aces. So I
Good
think
bones.
that the big theme with Depressorino is that
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Is that it's sad. It sort of sounds like we haven't thought about this at all, but you're wrong. But you're totally wrong. Well, I guess okay. So here's something I've been thinking about today because to tell a little tale, I am on some medication, big old blunts full of anti-bipolar drugs and stuff like that. So yeah, I for a long time I felt bad about my depression, which really hot take, fucking scalding, burning your fingertips off.
Wow.
Because
you weren't super fucking jazzed.
Yeah, I was in. I didn't want to like, because the grief and the depression are hard to extricate, disseminate, separate, elevate. It's hard to medicate, baby. It's hard to do anything that rhymes.
So
It's hard
true.
to yeah, so I when I did start medicating, I was just levitating off the ground. I was so high, but yeah, that's something for me that always comes up with the big old depression, grief, because it's like, yeah, they correlate, they collaborate, they come out with some fire tracks together, like the features bang. So I struggled a
link
lot
and build.
with being like, maybe I'm not depressed, maybe life is just hella lame. So that's something I've been thinking
True.
about today is like, I didn't want to like treat. This is something I came from grief group one time. I was like, I don't know, I don't want to like take medication because I don't want to like treat my grief. And then someone was like, I hate that you said that because I take stuff and then I feel better. What's wrong with that? And I was like, well, I guess like 4 years of my thinking went out the window with the slightest pushback of common sense and self-care. So that was interesting. And now
No rebuttal.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's totally fair. It's like if you had, I don't know, if it's like you had syphilis and chlamydia and you're like, I don't want to take antibiotics because I don't want to like not know which one I'm treating, and then you just get crusted up.
Yeah.
And
Crusted.
there's a certain point where you want to peel back the crust and come out of your little cocoon. Is the metaphor tracking, or should I go way deeper and
Yeah,
crustier?
no,
Okay.
It's
yeah,
visceral. It's
it is visceral.
I have 37
crust.
more STD related
Crustacean.
examples. But yeah, I think that's there's a big shame spiral in there. Not knowing, being like, do I have sad in the brain, sad existential, or just life is sad for everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's its
Totally.
own little trident.
Yeah, I definitely feel like grief, like, it can, especially in the early stages, I feel like it can be, if you already do deal with depression, like I did, it can kind of bring that, like, what's the point, existential dread to the forefront. And then it's kind of just like, because with depression, it's easy to get on that train of thought, like, what is it all for? This seems pointless, whatever. But obviously when like your parent dies, it's like, it can really reinforce that, because it's like, okay, this isn't even my depression talking, or like it's hard to like figure out which one it is, because it's like, I think it's completely fair to kind of feel like, I don't want to say like a victim, but like initially when someone dies, it's like you're gonna kind of feel like, what the fuck, like this is really upsetting, this is unfair. It does kind of feel like pointless, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I think it's like normal to feel that way initially, and like obviously if that's prolonged, that's a different issue. But like, so I think it can be hard right away to like separate the two, because it kind of pushes, like the grief can push you forward on the depression train. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
You're riding the
like,
rails.
right? I don't know. I don't know if
Totally.
really not articulating this well, because again, we did plan excessively.
Too many notes.
This isn't
Way
initial
too many
brainstorming.
notes.
Yeah. No, we didn't think of this 2 seconds ago. But
No, this isn't getting flushed out as we go.
Yeah, what about you, Maddie
Well,
Ann?
I can give a little
MAB?
input. Good God, Maddie Ann. Okay. Yeah, so as someone that, doesn't really deal with depressy doodle dandy, I'm kind of just skipping, hopping, fucking every day is cloud nine. Let me just tell you. I'm kidding, but no, I'm pretty like neurotypical. Don't shame me. So like I can kind of give a perspective that like, I was kind of at like a baseline before. Well, actually, let me step back a little bit, because our mom was sick with stage 4 cancer that just kept fucking chugging along in her body for about a year before she died. and she was on like really intense chemotherapy treatments and stuff. And just watching that, like, I think I was kind of on like just a very not quite angled slope downward, like for that year, into kind of like a depression that kind of then settled into a depression once I hit the grief after she died. Just because it was
brewing.
It was brewing, yeah. It was a depression that was kind of brewing, exactly. Like a good little sad...
Some might say like a chili. I don't know.
Someone might say a big gumbo. A big, thick gumbo.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, gumbo.
A really sad cup of chamomile. And...
Sleepy time forever.
It was sleepy time tea.
Yeah, it was.
But, okay, yeah. Let me get back on track here. Okay, so she was sick, and that made me feel really sad. Like, I hated watching her, like, be in pain. And, like, our mom was, like, the type of bitch that, like, if she was going to do something, she was going to do it all the way. Like, if she was going to cry, she was going to cry harder than any other fucking person. Like, and if she was going to laugh, she was going to laugh harder, whatever. So she liked to live, you know, and, like, seeing her in a compromised state, like health-wise, you know, physically, mentally, spiritually, it was just really hard, and it was sad. And yeah, so it was like, you know, the depression tea was brewing, and then she died, and it was like, I think I just kind of experienced your average, like, grief depression. And I didn't really... Like, I didn't know what was happening. This is such a common theme in my life. I'm like, what's happening to me mentally? And I don't realize it until I'm, like, completely out of the woods of it. But
I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah, I think so, too. But I still look back, and I'm like, I don't even know. Like, was I fully depressed? Like, I'm not sure. But it is, like, I think it was just, like, a very isolated, like, grief period of depression where it was, like, you know, I had similar thoughts. Like, what's the fucking point? Like, there really isn't.
Sounds like depression to me.
Yeah, it was pretty low key, but, like, it definitely
Gabby.
It was surprising. Sounds like depression. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I mean,
Professor. Did I get an A on my paper in depression?
I mean, it's a telltale sign where it's like, I don't know if I was depressed, but I was questioning the meaning of everything and if it's even worth it to be here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like if you question it, like, maybe it wasn't, you know, like, if I have to question, like, was it depression? Like, it probably wasn't. But yeah, I mean, I think it was. I think it was like that griefy depression. It wasn't like fucking like clinical ass chronic depression. It was just like an acute couple months of me just being like sad as absolute fuck.
But
and
I think
love
that's still a valid form of depression.
No,
you
yeah,
know?
totally. No, I'm not trying to minimize it at all.
No,
it was definitely depression for sure. Okay. Yep. We're deciding depression.
But I think that's like a good point to make, because it's like, I feel like some people think like maybe depression, like you have to be like
bedridden,
wanting to end it all, or like, you know, it has to be very extreme to be like something you take note of almost. Because I feel like, especially in this day and age, like everyone is so used to just being fucking sad and anxious. I feel like.
No, you're triggering a memory. When I was like in that year of like steeping in depression, like that's when I like really first started feeling like I don't want to be here anymore. Like, wouldn't it be easier if I wasn't? Wouldn't it be easier if I just kind of...
Wouldn't it be nice?
Be nice to die right now. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, we're not glamorizing anything
I
here.
could end it all really
if I had a bridge. Yeah. Well, okay, so here's something that...
Trigger warning. We should probably put a trigger warning on this.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so I think that's actually, when I was like descending into the depths of depression, I actually took note of that, and I was like, this isn't normal happy-go-lucky Maddie Ann.
Nope.
But yeah, so that's me. That's my little depression journey.
Well, I think that like some of those, like, I think we describe ourselves like differently, particularly like you and me, Maddie. But I feel like some of those questions and doubts come from like a similar place, and I've been thinking of it more over the years as sort of a symptom of the language. Like, so here's my big fucking PowerPoint presentation. This is my big PPP, and so
fucking lay it out with the laser pointer.
Get the laser pointer out, yeah.
A laser pointer. I'm shining it right into your goddamn cornea. So get ready, get your little corneas open. It's clockwork orange, and we're blasting it into your Beethoven's coming in. Okay,
yeah.
so like okay, here's what I've
Shit.
noticed about like depression and like being down and feeling out of sorts, where there's like inherent like normativity, and by that I mean that if you're described as like depressed, it's like all that word is very like coupled with and like overtaken by the clinical terminology like, and so if you're depressed or neurodivergent, you're like away from this normal place, right? You're depressed, that word literally means down. So you're down from this place where you're supposed to be. If you're neurodivergent, it's like you just took a big right turn on the train tracks and you're off the goddamn rails. So
You're in
it's
the
all about
sunken
things
place.
like not being normal. Like there's this baseline that you have strayed from somehow. And I think that can be like really
Right.
pernicious and destructive because like when I was saying like having a hard time extricating grief from depression and when I felt like I shouldn't treat my depression because I did feel down, but I didn't feel like I had diverged. I didn't feel like I was actually away from the normalcy of experience because maybe I was more down than I perceived the general public to be or my peers, but I was like, well, isn't this exactly where I'm supposed to be when I just watched my fucking father die? Aren't I supposed? And
Yeah.
trigger warning. Like, isn't it normal to feel like suicidal and that like deep gut wrenching nihilism and being like maybe it wouldn't be so bad if I wasn't here. And
Right.
so I think that's like there is definitely some illness in our language where like we can't separate depression from depression where depression in a way is like an experience closer to like sadness or grieving is like totally normal, totally human, and in a way you are supposed to be where you are. Where in if you're like clinically depressed or like chronically depressed, like the baseline isn't from your normal experience, it's from other people's like general experience. So if you're away from like what normal
Yeah.
people should be, like maybe you need to be medicated, but if you're away from like your normal set of experiences, then it's a little more complicated. It's like, well, maybe you could take something that works, like my friend said. Or, like part of it's like, well, you have to self-analyze and be like, well, yeah, it makes sense that I'm like away from my baseline. But because everything's all
Yeah.
muddled and like the normativity of these words, it's really hard to figure out. It's like, was I really depressed or was I just like depressed? Like those words are, they should be different
Yeah.
words, but they've gotten all smashed and jammed together. So then you end up with confusing things like saying like, yeah, I felt really depressed, but I don't have depression, which in a like logically is sort of fucking it's nonsense. It's a nonsense statement, but it's also true, and it's because
I agree with that
it's because
statement.
our language is faulty. It's broken. It's too medically induced. PowerPoint over. I don't. Your corneas are going to have a molten core, and a little train is going through them right now. Beep,
Hell
beep,
yeah.
beep. So I hope I tunneled right into you with my big
You
filibuster.
tunneled in. That's.
Oh, I tunneled, baby.
I feel like I learned a lot with your filibuster banger.
Yeah, I filibustered right down
That was
your
like
door holes.
Psych 101 in
Yeah.
5 minutes. So
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I mean,
like
'cause-
almost
yeah.
like demystifying psych. Like he kind of like went in on psych.
Yeah. No, seriously though, it's like because in both ways, like because since I do say I have like clinical depression, it's like I always feel like a fucking freak, like it's way too we're crazy today, and I think a lot of it is because of that, this thinking about where you're supposed to be, and like the medical
Yeah.
language rather than like having a set of experiential terms that we can share. And part of it's our culture, I think, that we can't separate the
Totally.
two.
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I think everyone has like a general baseline. It's like whatever, if you are like up or down from that, it's like, it's a case by case situation. Yeah, it's not like you can't generalize these like unique, like very subjective experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, am I supposed to be
Definitely.
feeling
That
like
differ so
yeah.
greatly.
Like, am I supposed to be feeling like my peers, when they have had a very different experience. And you can cross hash that by any like set of experiences that, are othering.
Right.
So it's like you're supposed to be comparing people, but you really have to compare to yourself. But if you always compare to yourself when you're actually clinically depressed, then it's like, well, that's not great because you're just orbiting this little far off fucking island of doom, this little Cthulhu knuckle that you're just planting your little flag on.
Just
so I don't know. It's a
through
mess.
the DSM-5.
But now I'm like I'm much more like that sentence my friend said that just train rammed me, where it's just like, well, why wouldn't you just do what works? Which is what I encourage. That's what I think people should do, is just like, just have a better life if you can. Like, there's no shame in that. Like, there is a lot of shaming, but there's no shame in that.
And the beauty of like, taking medication is you can always stop if it doesn't work for you or you don't like the way it feels. Like you can stop. And I mean, to stop in a way that works for you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, there is so much
I'm not going to be like
stigma.
cold turkey stop, but
there's so much stigma for no reason. I feel like then, it just gets like transferred on to like people who might actually need it. They're like so like, I don't know. They're just like, I don't want any part of that. And I've been on little antidepressant ADs.
A little
AD. I didn't want to use the slang right away in case someone didn't, the ADs.
Ad blocker.
I think
the
ad blocker. I think I actually went off of them before Mom died. I don't remember. Yeah, I did.
What a risky biscuit.
Great. I'm glad she remembers. Yeah, no,
I remember because I was the one that kind of
I didn't really know what was in my future.
Medication.
I didn't know it was in my future, clearly, but because I was like, I'm good. But
I remember because you were having like a huge spiral and you picked me up from the bus stop.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. Because I went on them after that, but I'm saying I don't remember when I went off of them. Oh, is what I was saying. You don't need to expose my spiral, but it was a spiral. It definitely was.
Sorry.
No, it's
our
fine.
Pontoons crashed. And
our pontoons crashed. Yeah, no. So I was like,
I didn't have insurance.
I was mad depressed, like probably like a year or two before Mommy died, and went on antidepressants. It was a good experience because it did like level me out. But then eventually I did feel like that classic thing where people like, it's kind of numbing at some point. And like, it's like, you kind of miss the high highs too. I'm like, I feel like I'm really neutral. Like I'm cruising, like kind of weirdly neutral, which at the end, I just didn't feel like it was like, I didn't really need that crutch anymore, which I've considered going back on them at certain points, haven't, but like, I think it's fine to like have it be, a little bit of a temporary thing if if that's what works for you.
We talk about that little pesky baseline, and I think like sometimes it's just like necessary to maybe take medication for a little bit just to get yourself out of that fucking sinkhole.
You need a boost.
Yeah,
a little big boost. A big booster
seat.
But
you're
again,
a little baby at a
restaurant.
You need to see the table.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should tie this into grief since we are a podcast about grief.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you brought up a good point about like the numbing thing, because we talked last episode and I talked about how with self-medicating, for instance, like I used alcohol to feel more things and I used opiates to feel less things. And I think and me and Gabby have talked about this too. I think there's like, one of the stigmas that I inherited and, just crusted into my body was that I wouldn't process. I think processing is a whole fucking enigma, but I was like, well, if I'm on antidepressants and I like block my emotions out, I won't process this and then I'll never get over it. Newsflash, you don't really ever get over it. Like, that's the fucking big secret at the end of the honey tunnel. Is that you don't really like, it's not like you just run the gauntlet. It's like I was check sad,
Steaming
check
hot
angry.
take.
It's just like the stages of grief thing. It's like, it's not like, if you like you step over like the final boss of depression. It's not like he's just gonna like be waiting for you as soon as you get off of it and he's gonna crush you again. Like, Yeah, there's no amount of processing you could do, and you don't need to do it all at once. Like, it's like, oh, I should just let myself be flooded with the pain of the universe and existence, because if I don't, then maybe I'll be sad. It's like, well, you're sad. You're
For
sad,
sure.
big guy.
Yeah.
Look at the signs. Read the
Definitely.
big fucking signs and the Acme anchor coming down in your head like Wile E. Coyote, because you can't roadrunner away from this one, baby. No matter how many pills you're on, you're still gonna be sad. Don't worry, grief babies. You'll still be sad.
Mm-mm.
Just
Don't
chalk up. Yeah, it's still gonna hurt.
It's not a game you
It's-
can win.
yeah,
It's
Mhm.
mommy in the hospice bed with the reptile skin.
Yeah.
This isn't a
Mhm.
game of Clue. Yeah, it's an infinite Tom and Jerry
Mm-hmm.
run around.
Okay,
it's-
here's what it's like.
no.
It's like the game of
So hope.
life, but instead of like a normal board, it's like the MC Escher like infinite stairway thing, where you're like, oh, family, and then you're like, no family. I thought they're just what? It's forever, baby. It is forever.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Esching
yeah,
you
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's etching you all over.
And
Big
there's like
Esh.
actual real shit. It's like, oh, you pulled the cancer card. Okay.
Oh,
um,
all right.
700 turns
I'll
of
take it.
infinite sadness. Yeah.
I think that does bring a good point up though, like kind of being, I guess, self-aware enough to know your baseline or know
Right.
like what that, if you've strayed from that, even if it's whether it's chronic or not, like I think it is important after such like a traumatic loss to be aware of that, because I mean so many things about your life change after that, like you as a person I think just change. So I don't think it's like, I think it does take some time after that death to like figure out, maybe you might have a completely new baseline, you know what I
Right.
mean, like it
Right,
might
right.
really adjust.
The
You have to
grief,
level
like,
out,
yeah.
because I feel
Mhm.
like, you know, kind of to your point initially, Maddie, like kind of that slow descent to not really knowing what's going on, like that's kind of how my depression definitely manifests. And I think it did right after mom died. Like I don't know I'm in the cave until I'm in the fucking cave, and I'm like, wait, have I just been slowly walking into darkness for months, and like
Yeah.
I don't really notice until I'm like, oh god, I'm like really in this bitch.
Yeah,
But,
sometimes
Right.
it takes like a rock bottom moment, and I think maybe like a death, like the death of a
Mhm.
parent or a close one, could like be the precipice for that. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah,
that could push you into the rock bottom, and
Well,
then
yeah,
you
'cause-
realize like,
Mhm.
oh god,
you kind of lose motivation. And like we've talked about before, like we were all in school and like life still goes on, and this realization like, oh shit, I have to like keep like being at my baseline, whatever,
Uh-huh.
like quote unquote, even though that's impossible after that happens.
Mhm.
And or like people
God, unless
rather
you are just a super
or rather like people are expecting you to be at your baseline. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like a month
God.
Right.
later. And it's like, what? Like, so then, you know, I noticed my depression definitely like physically, like I'm so fatigued. I like have no motivation to do anything. And that was definitely the case with like going to school and trying to keep up with life. And I was like, am I depressed? Is this grief? Am I just like
Mhm.
losing motivation? Because like, you know, I was just like, why do I feel the way I do? Like, but I think it was just kind of a mashup DJ
Yeah.
Earworm
Uh-huh.
mix, but you know,
Mhm.
like,
Girl
but
pool, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, well, with the baseline thing too, like, and I think that's one of the, because we've talked about how there's something that bothers us when like someone who's like a lot older like loses their parent, and they're like, I get it. Because like with the baseline thing, like losing someone really young or just having some kind of experience that like profoundly changes your life, because you're young, you don't like have all the data. If like the baseline is like the average from your like
Totally.
aggregated emotional experiences, when you get vaulted into this like prolonged, very different experience, you can't even really have a reliable baseline. It's like constantly being
Mhm. Right.
reconstructed because you have all of these
Totally.
huge emotional outliers you've never dealt with. So even like, you know, you can be self-aware to some extent, but you can't be self-aware to the extent where you like just know the baseline that you have. You can like try to be
Mhm.
self-aware as it's constantly adjusting, fluctuating, just riding the train cars to up Kathmandu right down to Marinara Trench. But there's you have to keep on finding that baseline, like, and like with the older the older people at the, you know, they they've had like enough experiences in their life or things are like settled. So I think sometimes that stings. It's like, well, you have enough data to like sort of know yourself a little bit better than I have the chance to. Like my life is still in fluctuation. Like you're at sea
Totally.
level, and I'm one of those like 7-foot long 8-legged crabs at the bottom of the Japanese Ocean, and I am just trying to find some goddamn shrimp to eat. But
You're
Yeah.
a crusty crustacean.
I'm so crusty. Look at me.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just like our brains aren't even done developing to this day. Like it's
Uh-huh.
like
No, I
we're
mean,
still
I hadn't really experienced a lot of, I think this could be for all of us, like aside from a grandparent here and there, like I hadn't really experienced anyone dying close to me at all. Like that was like
Right.
mom was
Yeah.
kind of she was the atom bomb of death.
and what a
she-
big bang to start
Right.
off with.
Like you,
Uh-huh.
I like how you use the term outliers. It's like, yeah, it felt like a big old outlier, and it's like, okay, now you have to really reconstruct the graph. It's
Yeah.
confusing.
that line of best fit does not fit because you outgrew those little jeans.
No.
And you need some big old
The
dungarees
outliers
to slip
are-
into.
They're in bumfuck. I don't even know
Sorry.
where the outliers are. Like I
Uh-huh.
couldn't point them out on a map. They're in the Bermuda fucking Triangle.
No.
They are out there.
That death sent
Yeah.
me flying.
Well, and I think,
Rocket
you know,
Man.
Death and grief, it can create like other outliers too. Like that outlier
Uh-huh.
can just have a ripple effect of other, like
Mhm.
just
Yep, because
don't
people
know.
around you crumble.
yeah. And then you're just like, wow, I have more outliers than inliers, if you
Uh-huh.
will. And so my baseline's kind of based on those.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think that's also a thing too, like kind of circling back to depression. Like with the outliers, it's like, and since we're young. I'll say it. We're young and spry.
We are
and
young.
you know,
God, we're
these-
so jaded.
these experiences have been, you know, like the biggest ones in our life thus far, like good or
Mhm.
bad, at least for me personally. I'm like, I've had some good moments, but like none stick out quite like the outliers. So I feel like
Yeah.
circling back to the depression and the baseline, it's like part of that journey is like working hard to create more positive inliers. I don't know if this is making sense, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I feel like you have to balance out the trauma outliers with like new good experiences, and like that's way easier said
Yeah.
than done. But like, I feel like that's kind of the journey, like to kind of getting back to a new baseline, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Which is
and I
gonna
think
take
it's
a
kind
long
of our
time.
trauma brains, where it's like
Forever.
totally, because I feel like we are like trauma babies with trauma brains, and we're used to like those big fucking outliers, those bombs just being dropped, and
Yeah.
it's like we like that chaos. Our brains like it, so it's like we're not as stimulated by these little inliers that happen. It's like,
Right.
oh,
Feed me
Cool.
chaos.
oh, I got a cool job. It's like that doesn't hit like a mom death.
Yeah.
Like that's a big hit.
Yeah, no,
you know?
that's-
so it's like
Yeah,
it's gonna take a
exactly.
lot to like build up that like again that fucking baseline. And I think like self-awareness, it's just like being self-aware of like, okay, I'm a trauma baby, and like things I need to like rewire my brain, you
Yeah.
know.
thought
So
you were gonna
like
say
the
baboon.
I
How
need
do
to
you
like,
do that?
I need to crank those outliers in, like.
Mhm.
Like, it's so hard to do that though. And that's actually a good point too about the good experiences or whatever, maybe not like feeling as good because it's not chaotic and traumatic. Like, I feel like I'm way more prepared to like, you know, fucking bomb cover, like, what do we do in the worst crisis? How can I recover and bounce back? And, you know, the anticipatory depression. Like, I'm like, I know if this bad thing happens, I have the tools to fix it somehow, or the coping mechanisms. And it's almost like you become scared of when things go too right. It's like, oh, what would I do if things were actually
Exactly.
smooth and great and someone like, you know, a loving relationship, a normal home setting, like all these
A good
things. It's like,
sandwich.
what would I do in that case? Because a
Just
good
a good Sammy.
what would I do with a good sandwich when I've only
Mhm.
had fucking meatball marinara, just sloppy
Exactly.
Joe, you know, like
hot fudge sundae.
I
if
would
you
look
will.
at it and I would say, ew, I don't get it. I'm not going to
Burning
eat it.
fudge. Yeah. Well, that okay. So
Yeah.
you bring up
See,
that's something else
sandwich.
that I wanted to talk about in my really extensive PowerPoint notes for this podcast. But the thing about like being
Yes, okay.
scared about when things are going good, which is also, I don't know, hard to extricate between like depression and grief. But I do get really, I think it's a depression thing, but I do get really worried. Like
Yes.
I've been having a good last few weeks. I've been like really crazy busy, but I get terrified every time I have a good time because I'm like,
Yes,
ooh,
yes.
that baseline, baby. Like if I'm having an okay experience, I'm terrified it's just all gonna crash down. And I think that also has to
Yes.
do with anxiety and the little grief brain, where it's just like
Yeah.
I gotta be. You're so focused on like being prepared for, you know, the doomfall to crab bottom, to bikini
Mhm.
bottom boom. Bikini bottom baby boom. That sometimes it's a
Baby
self-fulfilling
boomer, yeah.
prophecy.
It is.
And you're like,
no, I was just going to say
you're like,
that.
I'm loving it in Kansas, but I'm about to go to Oz, and if I don't find those little AD red shoes to tip-tap my way home, I don't know what I'm going to do, because these flying monkeys are coming,
Yeah.
baby. They are coming, and their
Yeah.
hands are
They're
full
coming.
of marinara
Right to the
meatballs.
cornea.
Oh, yeah, right, drilled in,
Chum
big trains.
bucket.
Yeah. No, I was actually going to say that because I think we've talked about that before, Harry. We're like, we'll talk to each other and be like, I'm feeling, it's like taboo. I'm like, good today?
Fuck you.
I don't know. I'm feeling good. And then it's like, I'm like, wait 2 days until this fucking ends. Like, ends badly. Like, I still, and obviously that's something that shows that I need to like rewire my brain not to think that way. But it is hard because I'm just like, especially with depression, it's just like,
Yeah.
when it's chronic, baby, you're like, that means it's coming back.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm always kind of just like trying to be like, okay, is this a high that's preparing me for the low? Or
Yeah.
could I potentially just make this my new baseline?
Yeah.
No, that's not possible. But
It could be
no,
possible.
exactly. Like that's just like, I'm talking about my, my trauma brain mindset.
The paranoid
But,
narrator. The
ugh.
paranoid narrator. That sounds like I didn't make it
Oh,
up,
is
right?
that?
I did make it up. It's pretty cool.
Paranoid narrator.
Wait, that literally sounded like your PowerPoint.
That's
And
a
I was
tongue
like, I think I
twister.
have that.
Yeah, no, that's
I have a paranoid
that's one of the clip
narrator.
arts I put. It's like a little guy in the back of your head hiding
Yeah.
behind the couch of depression, and he's gonna take all your loose change and bikini bottom it out.
Oh, bless you.
Bless you,
Well,
bless
word baby. Well, word baby.
you,
Word baby. Well, word baby. Word baby. Well, word baby. Word baby. Well, word baby. Word baby.
Questions, answers, questions.
With that, should we maybe move on to some of our
Thank you, by the way.
some questions?
Let's question it up. Question.
Let's question.
Let's question
question our
everything.
depression.
Yeah, question our depression. quest for
QRAs.
I have a question about
God, we have so
the
many
questions
submissions.
we're asking ourselves about the questions everyone's submitting.
Mhm.
Okay, so actually,
This could be worded as a question potentially.
Grief Babies, today we are going on our a little Reddit thread that we frequent
Frequent.
called Children of Dead Parents, which fitting. We're in this community, baby.
Mhm.
Children of
It
the
is-
corn.
The description says it all for anyone and everyone that has lost a parent. Period. And we fit the mark.
Boom.
So we're just going and we're kind of just scrolling and we found a couple little
Scroll with us.
posts that we thought were interesting. And yeah, we're just going to respond completely unwarranted, but it's not really because we're on the fucking thread. So
We are on
Let's
the
just dive
thread.
right in.
So should we start with the YouTube video one?
Yes, let's begin. All right, jump in. Set the stage.
Okay, so this is someone's mother passed. I don't want to out the Reddit user because I don't know if they're like, what the fuck, I'm on a podcast. But
Oh yeah, just title it up.
so the title is "A Fucking YouTube Video Made Me Cry," which already I relate. So I've been depressed since I was about 12 or 13. I can't really cry anymore. The last time I can remember was at my mom's funeral a little over 2 years ago. Anyway, I've been having some really bad insomnia for the past few nights, and I've been mostly relying on YouTube to calm me down enough to try and sleep. Some anxiety bullshit mostly. Vibes. I added that. It's not in the post. I follow a lot of food YouTubers, and this seemingly clickbait video popped up in my recommendations titled "Surprising My Parents with a New Home."
Yay.
What? It's not a tomb?
Yeah, I
No.
was going to say
Okay.
the urn. Like, yeah.
I clicked on it, then realized I recognized the channel, so I decided to watch the whole thing. Holy shit. I don't know why, but I started bawling my eyes out when he saw his parents. I timestamped the moment in the link above if you want to see what I mean. It honestly got worse the more that I watched it. So much of me is jealous. Yeah. Sorry, I keep adding my 2 cents. So much of me is jealous, I guess, that I'll never be able to do this for my mother, even if I do somehow manage to be financially stable. I still have my father, which I'm eternally grateful for, but the dream of being able to do this for both my parents is an impossible one. This is legitimately the first time I've cried in 2 years. This is the first time I've felt something besides emptiness or anxiety in 2 years. I really don't know what to do with myself. And then edit. I just watched it again and realized that the part that gets me is his mom saying, "I missed you." I really, really don't know what to do with myself right now. Okay, so let's just process that for a moment.
Well, one note I'll say is, I think relating to our discussion of baseline, besides for whatever neurological effects there are, which my PowerPoint, we have no citations. Once again, that should be our real trigger warning. No citations, baby.
Uncited
Bikini Bottom. But like, I think the crying honestly might have something to do with this sort of like new baseline, because it does for me. Like, it takes something very, very extreme now to cry, because I feel like, generally you think about crying, it's like, oh, I'm very sad. There's something quite sad happening. And when something really, really sad happens endlessly for years, like a trident into your skull patty, it can be so hard to find a real low that will make you cry. So that
agree.
speaks to me on, I think that can be a depression thing, that can be a grief thing, that can be a double combo happy hour,
also
special.
Coping mechanism too, even, like if you had to like be strong, like as a child, or about the death too, it's like you felt like you kind of had to like push forward, or maybe that's again something like in your family of origin that could have just been a common theme of like, don't show emotion. I don't know, it's different for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
But I do think like I relate to like the jealousy aspect.
Yep.
Of, like,
yeah.
Because, we've talked about it too, where we're like, we'll see like a family at a restaurant and we're just like, fuck
You're
you,
like,
I'll
I'm
never
eating
eat
a
with
PB
her.
and jelly right now,
Yeah.
because I am so
Yeah.
jelly of your parent body.
Exactly. So I think that's
PB.
completely normal. It
Krabby
is completely
Patty.
normal. And also like these stupid clickbait YouTube videos, like I can only imagine what this is, buying my parents a Tesla. Like, it's like, fuck off, man. Like, that's just privileged in itself,
Totally. I mean, I am totally triggered when I see anything that's similar to like the clickbait video titled "Surprising My Parents with a New Home." Like, that's enough to just make me be like, next. Like, I will never, unless I'm already in a state of sadness and I want to make myself even more sad. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's, yeah.
Well, and I also think it sounds like, I know they say over and over again, I don't know what to do with myself, but I think maybe it's a good thing. It's like last time they cried was 2 years ago at their mom's funeral, and now they've had this release, so it's like, I really enjoy it because I also sometimes have a hard time crying too. So like, I enjoy when I release finally. Like, I'm like, oh shit, like a little measly tear and a smallest
like, oh, thank
violin
God.
is just like, like it feels really good. And, maybe it sounds like, even though it's like a weird feeling opening the floodgates, like it sounds like it could be a step towards like releasing some of that grief and anxiety and depression that this person has been feeling.
For sure. And I know people that have like, it's taken them like over a decade to cry over a dead parent. Like, you know, it's totally a normal thing.
The numbness,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, okay, there's
I,
a
for
comment
one,
on the
am
bottom.
just like a faucet. I'm a leaky fucking faucet, and I cry about
Maddie is a
at
leaky
least
faucet.
once a day.
No
and
big deal.
I honestly think I had an opposite effect after Mom died. Like, I feel like I've been crying way more since she died. Not in like a sad, weepy way, but like I just like, yeah, I don't know.
Do you think it's easier,
at the
like, for you to
drop of a hat?
cry?
I think it is a little bit, yeah. I mean, I've always been like really emotional and kind of like prone to feeling extreme emotion and expressing that in whatever
We're
way.
two opposite sides of the spectrum, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
which is not, you know, not bad.
no.
Yeah,
sure.
for me, the
But,
floodgates,
Yeah, I mean,
the floodgates flew open, but my river was way too silty. So it's just still
I see.
clogged. It's just still clogged. But yeah, there's
I
a
see.
comment at the bottom that honestly, big back shadow to a very evil institution. So at the bottom, my mom passed away last September. A few months ago, I was watching some Hallmark Channel movie.
Oh.
And I started bawling because the girl was having a deep conversation with her mom, and I realized I will never get that again. It's a weird little thing that sets me off to cry. So that, I know, it's like, yeah, finding a nickel in the couch where you're like, I'm so not rich, but I need this nickel. But yeah, it will always be like, for me, it's like very much a chance thing like that. Like, I remember there's a girl from Grief Group who just, the first time she cried was during a Bounty paper towel commercial, which was interesting, but, and it was honestly awesome. But yeah, for me, it'll be like that. I have this very vivid memory. It was just, it's something I would, see all the time, but I remember a few years ago, I was just going to the grocery store, and I saw this guy with his, like, 8-year-old son, and they just had an ice cream cone. They were both just walking with an ice cream cone, and it just, like, broke me. Like, it's just these weird little things where it's like,
Yeah.
and you're just inundated with the floodgatey Bikini Bottom. I gotta stop saying bikini top. No, wait a minute, sorry.
I like Marinara's trench.
Yeah,
Krabby Patties, shoving them in your pie hole.
Chum bucket.
Yeah, we're eating at Chum Bucket, us grief babies, but you
We
guys enjoy
are.
your Krabby
And
Patties.
Jaws is coming, and we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Oh my god.
But I don't know.
How many
It will.
movies have we referenced?
I don't know. Are we getting royalties or do we pay royalties? Is this the last episode before we go to the Supreme Court?
We're getting paid.
I think we're gonna get slapped with just some type
Is it
of
slapped with
All right,
dollar
well,
bills
fine.
or lawsuits?
Any other comments
Hopefully.
on the YouTube, or should we move on to the next one?
I think we should move on.
Okay.
Let's move
Does
on.
someone else want to read this one?
Let's
I
move
don't
on,
care.
guys. Come on. Okay, what are we?
This one is titled, "Am I the only one who don't talk to my dead parent?" I've read a lot of posts and comments on here saying they talk to their dead parent or have a shrine or journal what they want to say to them. Is it weird that I don't do that? My dad died earlier this year and I don't talk to him or have a shrine for him or do anything. I really want to, but I'm scared. I've only visited him once since the whole time I was crying, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to visit him again. Am I being a bad daughter? I've also been meaning to write letters or journal to him, but I can't bring myself to do it. I've only written down my thoughts twice when they were really intense, but apart from that, I've done nothing. I feel bad, but I also don't know what to do or where to start. I do look at his photos sometimes and talk to him in my head for a while before I stop myself. Am I a bad daughter?
Nah.
No.
God, no.
Nah.
God,
No,
no.
you are
It's
not
gonna be
a
a no
bad
for me, dog.
daughter.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I don't know.
No,
Do you guys?
no.
Okay. Do you? How often do you guys talk? Every once in a while, we'll talk out loud to my dad, but usually it'll just be like some moment hits me, and I'll be like, "Man, I miss you," and I'll just say that out loud, and then go about chopping tomatoes or whatever fucking impossibly benign thing I was doing.
I have the same experience. Like, if
Similar.
I am feeling like just thinking about her more, or it's like a certain day, like birthday, whatever, like I will definitely have those moments. But I don't like make it like, I'm not like an everyday. I don't have a shrine. I did set up a shrine for the anniversary this last year, which I had never done. I was like, I think it's just nice because I have some like random stuff of hers. but took it down the next day. Like I don't. So I don't think it's like
Boom.
abnormal.
The city came in and removed it.
You know?
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have random, similarly to both of you. Yeah, I'll have random moments where, I don't know, as I said, I cry about it all the time. So like sometimes if I'm like feeling really sad, like if I want her to, you know, if I'm feeling emotional about something that I wish I could talk to her about, you know, I'll definitely start crying and I'll be like, oh, I miss you so much. And I'll like say that out loud sometimes, or I'll just think it really loud in my head. But sometimes it's like a funny moment, like where like I'm doing something just like very random and I'm like, Mom, what would you do? You there?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Like,
send me a little sign, Momsy. And
yeah,
like,
we're like very facetious though. We're like, hey mom, let's get a little sign, huh?
hey Mom. And
Hey,
I'll
Mom.
tip something over. It was her. Shit.
Where'd
Like,
this
Mom,
meatball
blink
come
once.
from?
But no, I
Yeah.
don't have any type of ritual. It's not like an everyday thing where I'm like, I fucking kneel at my bed. I'm like, all right, good night, Mom. Like, it's not like that at all. And I think, I don't know. I don't know why I haven't incorporated that. Maybe because it would make me too emotional. Like, I don't want to like re-traumatize myself.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's kind of like, it is like a lot of emotional labor to like think about it.
Yeah.
It's not like triggering per se, but it is kind of like, all right, I don't want to beat a dead mom,
Well,
beat a dead horse.
I also
Oh,
think it is different
Christ.
for everyone. Like, you know, journaling or a shrine or whatever. Like, I know a fellow grief baby who has a shrine for his dad, which is great. But it doesn't matter. Like, as long as you find what works for you. You know, I think that's what's important, because some of the little sentences in here, it's like, am I a bad daughter? I stop myself when I talk to him in my head. I feel scared to talk to him or have a shrine. And it's like, well, you know, maybe that's what needs to be looked at more. Again, not a psychologist, not cited.
And her dad died earlier this year, so like
Yeah.
it's fresh as fuck. So that means like
really
maybe
fresh.
you know, it's just like for, you know, we're talking about this like 3 to 4 years post death.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, in the first year, like, you don't know what to do.
And
It's
don't do
like-
things that make you uncomfortable. You know, if
Yeah.
it's like you have to stop yourself or you feel scared, it's like, okay, maybe that's not the method for you, you know?
Yep.
I kind of
Yeah,
like to
I know.
bottle up all the feelings until an anniversary. I kind of use the anniversaries as like just a day to let the floodgates go. I mean, I feel like I've already exposed myself as a crybaby, but I still do like to repress a little bit and then just let it all out on like a birthday or the death anniversary. It's like, let's just fucking
Again, uncited, not necessarily recommended by
Uncited.
the
Uncited.
CDC.
Yeah, I think, well, I think I've sort of struggled with just because the word shrine and like ritual, but also spiritual practices, which I think tie into rituals sometimes, where I've really struggled with like feeling bad that I don't have something like that. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm losing him and I don't have to. But I also think that those things, it's not just like because something awful happens to you that you somehow inherit a bunch of divine like spiritual practices and rules. Like, I just didn't.
Right,
I just
yeah.
don't have a lot of those, and I never really did. And I've tried to make some with
No.
middling success, C-level, baby. But yeah, I don't know. It's just it is difficult. Well, especially with things like religion, where I haven't really ever had a fanatic like talk in my ear or whatever, because I would fucking eat them. But you know, there is some pressure to be like, fuck, you know, if I just give a shout out to that big guy God, if I just gave him a little heads up, like maybe he could introduce me back to Daddy, you know, maybe he could resurrect him or something. So it's difficult, like, I don't know, being a sort of violent agnostic by default and not being able to develop those rituals. So I
Yeah.
definitely understand like the grief there and being like, well, how come all these Catholics feel like they're gonna go like meet Daddy later? And I'm like, Daddy's
Totally.
Well-
dust, baby.
I think that does make the point, though, is that like the reason people do these things, whatever ritual or method you choose, it is to feel closer to your parent, who has died, right? So it's like, if
It's
thank
for
you.
you.
So it's
Yep.
like, you know, or it makes you feel better, it makes you feel closer to them, whatever it might be. And everyone has different goals, you know. Some people might do these things to release emotion. Some people might do these things to laugh. or just feel like they're doing something to honor that person. So it's like, it doesn't matter what it is for you necessarily. Like, it's not weird to do one thing or the other. I think it's just like whatever makes you feel maybe a little at peace or closer to them or X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, find what feels good for you, and it might take some time, you know? As we said, this person's not even like a year out, so
Yeah,
it might just take a little bit of time to find what feels good,
So
or
fresh.
as good as
So
it could
fresh.
possibly feel. Like, it's never gonna feel fucking good.
Never,
as
it doesn't
fresh-
get better, but you're not a bad daughter.
This is
It
pain
doesn't-
for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, a year is like as fresh as like when you pull the broccoli out of like the grocery store thing and it's still like wet from the little crisper misty shower. That's how fresh a year is.
fuck
Like your broccoli's
That's how
dripping,
fucking
dude.
fresh
My
air is.
broccoli's a little brown.
Your
It's dried out
broccoli's
and it's brown.
dripping.
But if your
Ugh.
broccoli's dripping, dry those eyes, dry those tears, open those silty floodgates, and let the Marinara Bikini Bottom flow. Okay?
Boom.
Boy, oh boy.
With that being
PowerPoint
said,
over.
with that being said, PowerPoint's over. If you want to submit
Mhm.
a question, topic, or banger about your broccoli, go to deadparentsclub.rip. Instagram, deadparentsclub.rip.
Doesn't have to be broccoli. Could be
And-
lettuce.
Yeah, any
Yeah, true.
veg
Yeah,
of your
yeah.
choice.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Cauliflower,
and,
perhaps. Yeah.
we are 10 years old, and you must wish us a
Uh-huh.
happy birthday. So
Yeah,
thanks for
6th grade,
tuning
baby.
in.
6th grade.
Yup.
I'm Gabby.
I'm Madison.
Say it.
Madison Avalado.
I'm Harry. Is that did I botch that?
ooh.
I'm Harry. Yeah. Okay. I
Are
nailed
you
it.
nervous?
No, I got distracted
great.
because one of the Reddit posters' name is All the Butt Stuff One, and he's like talking very seriously about his mom. But anyways,
Whoa,
I'm
whoa.
I'm
That's
Harry-
for next week's
I'm
episode.
Harry.
And we're
all the butt
all
stuff and Jensen.
We're all
depressed.
depressed. Oh, we
Or
didn't
have
do
been
that
at
thing.
some point.
We're all
All
depressed. Okay, this has been Unhinged.
Boom.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Ooh,
Excuse me.
Bless you.
And we'll see you at the chum bucket.
That was
chummies.
broccoli. That was a broccoli burp.
See you, grief
Okay,
chums. Bye.
See you,
Bye,
chum
chums.
buckets.
Bye, chum
Bye.
bucket. Bye.
Is this too crazy?
Crazy, and crazy.
No, this isn't too crazy.
We're live.
I'm good.
Thundercats clap.
Is this too crazy? No, this isn't too crazy. That dipped in and out of crazy, and pretty awesome.
Is this too crazy?
No, this isn't too crazy.
Crazy, and crazy, and crazy, and
crazy 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 and crazy 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 and crazy 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 and crazy 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 and crazy 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 and 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 crazy 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 and